Today's guest earned a Tony nomination for her Broadway debut as Olive Ostrovsky in the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee. These days, she's on a magical adventure 8 times a week as the sole female in Peter and the Starcatcher. Please welcome Celia Keenan-Bolger. Hi there.
Hi.
I'm so happy you're here.
I'm so happy to be here.
First of all, you look beautiful. It's
Thanks.
a very nice spring moment.
Oh, sure. It's nice when, although we've had a very mild winter, I have been...
Like no winter.
Yep. That's because we paid our dues last year. But now, yes, I'm excited about this sunny weather.
So I saw your show yesterday. I loved it. A lot of fun.
Yes.
Is it as much fun to do on stage as it is to watch from the audience? Because it's really kind of like watching a bunch of actors sort of create a show, right? It's very minimal. And
Yes, it is really, really fun to do. It is also like as rigorous and physically demanding a show as I have ever done.
Yeah.
But it's one of those shows that like once it starts, you're on the ride. Like it definitely carries you along. And because nobody is ever off stage, like sometimes that off stage time is kind of brutal because you are like, it just gets you out of it. And because nobody ever leaves the stage, it feels fast.
Right.
And the group of guys, I have like real love for people in this cast.
Yeah.
So that part of it also makes it really fun.
There's a lot of boys. Does it smell like a sweaty locker room backstage?
I, at New York Theater Workshop, shared a dressing room with all those boys, and I was right next to the bathroom. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Why are boys' bathrooms so much stinkier than girls' bathrooms? But now I have my own dressing room, and I'm always like, and now it's like, weirdly, this is my first time having my own dressing room on Broadway.
Nice.
And it's wonderful for nap time, and less fun for pre-show. I'm a tiny bit lonely. I'm always like doors open. I'm like, anybody wanna come play?
So backstage you can be a little bit of a diva in your own dressing room, but on stage you're pushing scenery around. You guys, you can't be like, excuse me, I was Olive Ostrovsky in Spelling Bee, Tony nominee.
Everyone's like, who?
You're just part of the ensemble.
Yes, and I think that is also just I think it keeps the whole ensemble feeling like a real ensemble, and I'm so glad to get to be a part of that as well. Like they definitely have not said, because I'm a girl, you don't have to do those things. I get to do all the things that everybody else does, which is how I like it and how it should be.
No pampering.
No.
Just backstage in the dressing room.
Exactly, nap time.
So this is sort of, to me, it's kind of like what Wicked is to the Wizard of Oz, right? So Peter and the Starcatcher is sort of a prequel to Peter Pan.
Yes.
And it's based on a book series. Actually, the first book was called Peter and the Starcatchers.
Which is what the play used to be called.
With an S. Oh, it had it was
at La
plural?
Jolla, it was Peter and the Starcatchers.
Oh, what a huge change.
I mean.
What happened?
Sweet Rick Ellis was like, you're the only girl, so it should only be a Starcatcher.
You are the Starcatcher.
Yes.
What the heck is a Starcatcher?
Well, essentially, in this version in the telling of this story, little bits of stars fall to Earth, and they're called star stuff.
Right.
And whoever touches star stuff becomes whatever they want to be. So if you're really evil and you're hungry for world domination, then you get that.
Okay.
And if you want to, I don't know, stay a boy forever, then you get that. And so Starcatcher's jobs are to make sure that star stuff doesn't get into the hands of the wrong people.
And you're Molly Astor.
Yes.
Not of the famous New York Astor.
Nope.
Astor ER.
Exactly.
But you are a rich girl.
Yes.
And Daddy's Leonard Astor. He's a famous Starcatcher.
Yes, and a lord. And I think she's like a lot of, she's like 13 and she's super smart. She's raised by a man. She's sort of surrounded by men. And in a good way, I think doesn't have the sort of hang-ups of like, I'm a girl, so I'm expected to do these things, or I can't do these things. But I think she's super bright and a bit of a boss, and therefore, and a bit of a show-off. And so like in the friends department, she is seriously lacking. So I think in this journey, getting to be around these 3 guys, these orphans, one of whom grows up to be Peter Pan, and they've never had any female influence, and she's sort of into like taking care of them, and there's like this real relationship that forms. And those 3 guys, I feel real feelings for those guys.
So you're hanging around with a lot of boys.
Yes.
Your character does, and you are in the show.
Yes.
And you seem to have, you have been like a tomboy?
I would say I love the ladies.
Yeah.
I have like a group of women who I feel like my life would be very different if they didn't exist. But there is something like it was like the first time that I'd met all of these guys and no one was talking, and I was like, so what's everybody doing? Like,
Awkward.
who has siblings? And I was like, why is no one talking? I was like, men just don't feel that need for like,
dudes. They're just
endless
sitting around.
chatter. Where I feel like immediately girls are like, are you married? Do you have a boyfriend? What's going on? Have you been in love? Like, we just want to get in there a little bit faster. And so that whole thing, I was like, just shut up for a little bit and let them talk. And there was just something so interesting too about getting to observe a bunch of men.
So how far are you now from the men's toilet backstage?
Like about 10 feet. It's fine.
You'll still get some.
Yep,
push.
we do. We're like, you got to go to the lobby if you have to make number 2. Don't do that back here. So.
What was your first exposure to Peter Pan when you were a kid? I mean, there's so many different sort of versions of this story. And
Yes.
That's so great, the mythology of it.
Right. I never read the book. I never read the Jan Barry book until I saw the movie Finding Neverland, which was way later.
Right.
But I was totally obsessed with the Mary Martin video,
Oh,
like
okay.
her TV version.
Okay.
And loved that video and loved the recording, like was super into the musical.
Okay.
And got, like, I think it was like a sophomore or a junior in high school and played Peter Pan.
Oh, you did? In the musical? Mm-hmm. Wow. How'd that go?
So fun.
Yeah?
And
In the House of Flying?
Really fun.
Yeah?
Really exciting. Yeah, it was like at some community theater in Michigan.
Yeah.
But it was like one of those things, and I'm sure I was terrible, and I'm sure that every single line reading was like Mary Martin's line reading from the
You
video.
just memorized.
Yep, because I was like, I know what physical gesture she does here, and I know like how this intonates, and so I'm sure it was like a really great mimic of whatever Mary Martin did. But I do remember when like the auditions were coming around, and I was like, Peter Pan or Wendy, and I was young enough that I was like, ugh, I don't really want to wear like a tunic and tights. I would much rather wear like a pink nightgown and get to wear my hair long and blah, blah, blah. But I was like, ultimately, Wendy is just like not that interesting in the Peter Pan story. And so I'm really grateful in this Peter Pan telling that the woman is like as strong
She's not
and
Wendy.
at all. And I like that sort of angle. And like yesterday at the show, 2 tiny little girls had like never seen a Broadway show, came up to me after and they were like, "We love Molly." And I was like, she's such a good role model for young girls to get to see in a way that I feel like maybe Wendy is a little bit less.
So if Kathy Rigby ever retires the Peter Pan tights, would you maybe consider doing Peter Pan on Broadway?
I wonder.
That could be fun.
That could be fun.
Just for the flying alone.
Exactly.
It's not like Elphaba. She really flies.
Exactly.
Elphaba just goes up a lift.
Down. Yeah, it is.
Have you ever flown? I mean, you fly in this show. I don't want to reveal anything. There's a little bit of flying, but
yes.
Have you ever done a full-out flying, or is that
was
or the
like
community
the community theater, like
up?
little foy, like whatever they go and bring over to the community theaters. That's what we had, and it was like I got to it was exciting enough, but not like Mary Poppins fly.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe you would consider a Peter Pan.
Yeah,
revival.
sure.
We don't want to upset the Rigby family.
No, let's not get crazy. But I do sort of love that show. There are like really beautiful songs in it, and yeah, it's a good one. I haven't seen it in a long time.
Yeah. Now you are playing a very little girl,
Yes.
and you play little girls. I mean, you're good at this. You're actually. How old were you in Spelling Bee? Are you actually younger in Peter and the Starcatcher?
No, I think I'm older in Peter and the Starcatcher.
Okay, so like 7 or 8
we're
years.
about the same.
7 or 8 years have gone by since
And
Spelling
I'm
Bee. You're like
still-
a year older on stage.
Yes. And honestly, I was like, it feels weird to be like getting to come back to Broadway playing basically another little kid. And I was so grateful to get to do Merrily right before this, just for my own brain
roll along.
space. Merrily we roll along. That I was like, at least for myself, go in with some confidence that like this is not the only thing I can do.
Yeah.
But I've thought about it a little bit, and I don't know, it's not like I even feel so drawn to playing these young roles, but they have found me, and I certainly feel super grateful to get to do it. But that's something that is a little bit of a mystery to me, where I feel like I have lots of things inside of me that are beyond playing a 13-year-old. But for now.
Well, when you're like 50, you'll be playing a college-aged girl.
Yes. Yes. It
I mean,
could
you
go the other
have
way.
off-Broadway, right? I mean, you
Yes.
were like in Bachelorette.
Yes, that
right?
was someone my
An
own
adult?
age.
You played
Yes.
adult?
So great. So great. Yeah, and like in A Small Fire, this play at Playwrights,
Right.
I also played an adult. So, you know,
But on
I've
Broadway,
definitely-
with that distance,
Yes.
apparently you're 12.
Right. Yeah.
is a gift.
Eponine, I guess, was like, you know, older. She
Yeah.
wasn't 13.
Right.
But it's something, you know, and I think when I auditioned for Peter and the Starcatcher, I was much more in the like sort of still playing much younger people. And so it's been a fun journey from then to sort of have these other experiences and see how that has informed playing a young person.
Are you up for the lead in the Broadway revival of Annie?
James and I had a conversation about, no, we didn't. Can you imagine?
You'd be awesome.
Just over 30, singing tomorrow. Yes.
Do you moisturize in a special way, or what are you doing?
No.
Are you trying to
I have
keep
a
that?
tiny nightly regime, which is washing my face
That's good.
and putting on a moisturizer. And maybe an eye cream, just as I've gotten a little bit older.
I actually have no idea how old you are, but I know that you're not 12.
Right, 34.
Okay, 34.
So, yeah. And I feel...
And you're married.
Yeah.
You're a married lady.
I am.
And you married John Ellison Conlee, who
Yes.
I fell in love with. I feel like a lot of people probably fell in love with in the Full Monty when he was singing a love song to his belly.
Yes.
I mean, he was.
Come on.
He was awesome.
He
Did
was.
you see the Full Monty?
I did. And I actually even saw a show that he did right after that sealed the deal, which was called The Butter and Egg Man.
Yeah,
That was this
right,
play at the Atlantic.
yeah.
Yes. Where I was so obsessed with him.
Did you have a crush, an immediate crush?
Yeah. Where, like, when his name would come up, I would be like, John Ellison Conlee, my boyfriend from The Butter and Egg Man, that guy.
Really?
And I had a friend who was in the show with him, and I was like, does that man have a girlfriend? And he was like, yes. And weird with the stage crush. And I was like, I don't know, that guy, there's something like magic about that guy. And that was like, you know, like 9 years ago.
So did you have like a board at home? Did you secret it? Did you like Oprah? Did you have like
Just tiny images
like,
of him and
in
us
a tux
together.
and you in a wedding dress? How
Do you know
did-
what? There is a really crazy story though.
Okay.
When I was doing Spelling Bee, I was doing like some big talk back for a group of people from all over the country who had come to see the show.
Yeah.
And this very beautiful woman came up to me when it was over. And they had all seen the show and had asked questions, really smart questions, whatever. It was great. And she came up to me and she was like, you know, I've so enjoyed listening to you speak, and I love the theater. My son is in the theater. Maybe you know him, John Ellison Conlee. And I was like, in my head, my boyfriend from The Butter and Egg Man. And I was like, I don't know him.
My
but
future mother-in-law?
How crazy is that? So we met,
Wow.
and she claims that she then immediately called John and was like, you have to keep your eye out for this girl. And he was like, what? Has no
You worked
recollection
this
of it.
from a lot of angles.
Bizarre.
You really?
Bizarre.
Okay, so this is giving hope to people in the audiences everywhere who fall in love with a certain performer. So how did you seal the deal?
Sarah Salzberg was doing Don't Quit Your Night Job.
Mm-hmm.
And John had come in to sort of audition, and she called me and she was like, who is this guy, John Conlee? He is so hilarious. And I was like, I love that guy.
My boyfriend from Butter and Egg
But
Man?
yeah, that guy? Of course I know him. And she was like, how do you know him? I was like, I don't. I just saw him in that show.
Obsessed.
So I'm just obsessed with him, that's all. And so she started working with him, and she was like, what's going on with you and John Conlee? And I was like, what are you talking about? She was like, I feel like something needs to happen there because he is so great. And I was like, I'm into it. So she like went to him and was like, I want to set you up. And he was like, please don't set me up. I do not want to be set up. They never work out. And she was like, I'm going to set you up so well that you're not even going to know you're being set up. And we had like a group date. And he was a little resistant. I think he was just sort of, he says he had a great time, but he was like, it just seemed, I wasn't sure. And then we were just in touch. I had to go out of town. So we were like emailing and sort of talking on the phone a little
Facebook,
bit.
maybe?
No, he was not on Facebook.
Oh, well, then now you're ever supposed to meet someone if they're not
I
on
think
Facebook.
maybe that was part of what was really good about it, where I wasn't like, I could stalk even more his entire life history, and that we
Little bit of
actually
mystery.
had to get to know each other.
Right.
And then I came back, and it was pretty quickly clear that we were like, we like each other.
And you've been together for how long now?
5 years.
Wow. And you got married when?
In September of 2010.
How did the proposal go? I'm loving all this.
It was amazing. We were in Los Angeles visiting, and we went to Ojai, which is just like an hour north, and to this amazing valley, and where it's like called Meditation Mount, where you get like 360 views of beautiful California. And we were like walking around having this really great day, and he like took out a book for a second, or like a little like journal looking thing, and like put it away. And I was like, what's happening? And he was like, let's sit down. And he then like basically said like the nicest things that anyone has ever said to me in my whole life, and was like, I want to be married to you. Right before, like when we sat down, something in him shifted so majorly that for a second I was like, either he's gonna break up with me or we're gonna get engaged. Because it was like that, and of course he wasn't gonna break up with me, but that was my feeling, where I was like, something profound is about to happen. Like his energy was like so crazy.
Right, and you called your BFF Gavin Creel.
Yes, who was, he knew, he had been asking for a long time and was like, what's happening? When are you getting married? And actually on our way to Ojai.
You looked like him when you just did that. Like, you actually conveyed him for a second.
Just a lot of years together. That will happen. Yeah, and Gavin even like wrote a song for our wedding that is incredibly beautiful.
How did you and Gavin become so close? I know how you fell in love with John now, but how did you fall in love with Gavin?
I fell in love with Gavin when I was a freshman at the University of Michigan, and he was a junior.
Okay, right. I forgot you went to school together.
Yes,
okay, I didn't know that.
He was surprisingly like everybody's just hero in the department. He was so amazing, and he played Harold Hill in Music Man when I was a freshman. I threw the firecracker off stage, and I was just so taken by him, but also was a little bit in that way that you can be when you're so excited by someone, that I feel like instead of being like, you're amazing, let's be friends, I was just like, don't get in his way, like just be cool. And then his senior year, he directed a production of Pippin, like a student production, that was just so fast. He directed it. Alex Gimignani was the music director, the assistant music director. Dan Reichert was Pippin.
Wow.
I was Catherine. It was like one of those ridiculous things. Courtney Ballin was in it.
A Broadway company.
Yeah, just at the University of Michigan. And we became really close there. I mean, and in a way, he sort of demanded things of me, or sort of put me out there in a way that no teacher I had really, in that way that maybe friends can do, like when you're young, that he just was, it was so good. And then he moved to New York, and we sort of stayed in touch, but just a little bit. And when I was getting ready to move, he was like, the woman that I'm living with on the Lower East Side is moving out, and I think you should come live with me.
Wow.
And of course I was like, okay. And it was like that, I think, moving to the city and having that experience, like I cannot imagine things starting in a better way. Like I was there the morning, like we had this amazing apartment on Stanton Street between Christie and Bowery. It was like the first time I ever saw people shooting up. I saw like just rats, and we had this amazing, dingy tenement place, but it was a huge apartment, and it was ours, it was ours. And
do you know how jealous everyone watching this video is right now? You got to move to New York and move in with Gavin Creel.
What on earth is not lost on me how amazing that is. And then to have his sort of, just who he is, that energy, to be around that energy. And I'll never forget like waking up the morning that he found out he was nominated for a Tony for Millie. And it was a really amazing person to start my time in New York with.
And he's always had kind of a hippie energy. And you say your parents were hippies, right?
Yes.
And that's why you have two last names. Because that's how they formed the Keenan-Bolger clan.
Keenan is my mom's name, and Bolger is my dad's name. So.
And what was like the weirdest hippie thing about growing up with them? Anything? Did they have any weird behavior?
It was interesting because we lived in Detroit, so it wasn't like hippies hanging out in fields. It was like a lot of protests. Like I went to a number of protests as a kid. We belonged to a food co-op for a long time. With Easter approaching, I can always makes me think of like the Carib bunny Easter bunny that I would receive, where they were like, "It's just like chocolate," and then taste it and be like, "This is actually terrible. This is awful."
And they created a little clan of child actors originally, right? You have two. You have your
Yes,
brother,
yes.
who's Andrew, who's now on Broadway in Newsies,
Yes,
playing
playing-
Crutchie,
Yes.
which means he's a crippled character.
Alex Timbers, the director of Peter and the Starcatcher, has been going around saying, "Crutchie is my favorite character, crippled character on Broadway, more than Porgy."
Sorry, Norm Lewis.
Sorry, Norm. It's so ridiculous.
They need to have some sort of face-off. Those two.
Yeah.
And your sister's also an actress.
Yes, and a writer and a teaching artist. I feel like my sister actually embodies the most of, because she's an amazing artist, but she also has really brought the sort of political part of our upbringing into it. She like goes into schools and goes into a lot of LGBT homes and teaches kids to like write about their experience and perform it. So she's like taking it to the next level.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, and what's it like, you and your brother now both on Broadway? I mean, it's kind of pretty cool, huh?
It's the day that it was like posted was like truly, I'm gonna cry just thinking about it. It was like one of the most proud days of my whole life. It was so special. And our mom died like 10 years ago. And I remember thinking, I was like, this would have made her, she would not have believed that this was possible. Like it really, it's so special. It really is.
You mentioned Merrily, and you were definitely playing against type because Mary is normally overweight, and you were drunk on stage, which is fun. I liked watching you drunk on stage. Was that? I just want to ask you quickly because everybody loved that production. Now you're going to record it.
Yes,
right?
on Monday.
Oh, exciting! So was that terrifying? I mean, was that like a high pressure? Like you got Sondheim coming and watching, and
Yes. I mean, I think because it's a role that I have dreamed of for years. Like ever since I found that show, I have dreamed about.
Like It Was is like one of my top 5 Sondheim songs. I love that
It's
song.
Crazy.
And you made me
good.
cry.
It's that whole show. I can think of a few times in my life where my expectations were so high and then they were exceeded. That was that experience. And I think being with Colin and Lynn, however much pressure, Colin Donnell, Lin-Manuel Miranda, perhaps you've heard of them. Whatever pressure I think I felt going into the process, we had something magic that James and Rob and I think Sondheim were able to tap into, and they just assembled, and not just them, like that entire group of people was really extraordinary. It was one of the great experiences I think I will be able to say of my entire life. That show, come on.
I can't wait for the CD.
Me too. Especially as someone, like growing up in Michigan, my only sort of window, or at least for many years, was cast recordings.
Right.
To make one it's exciting.
Well, good. We'll have fun. Have
Yeah,
fun in the
thanks.
studio and
Thanks.
get it out quick
Right.
for us freaky
Yes,
fans.
yes.
Well,
Done.
thank you so much. It's so great to see you.
You too.
And I love the show, and everyone needs to see Peter and the Starcatcher at the Brooks Atkinson Theater. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank
so
you.
good to see you.
It's great to be here.
Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.